You're listening to The Scrimmage with Daniel Hargrove and Justin Domashevitz.
Happy Halloween!
Yay! I got candy.
Daniel's throwing candy all over the place.
I've got candy.
And in case anyone might be wondering why he looks a couple inches taller than normal today, it's because immediately before we went live, he was feeling a little sore in the bum.
Yes.
And he went and got himself a little cushion. So in case anyone's wondering, don't worry, Daniel's butt is fine.
Kind of. I'm starting to be concerned. It's been a few months now.
Since
the accident.
You had a butt accident?
Dude, I didn't tell you this?
He had a tailbone accident.
the video
Specifically,
with the
a
bike?
tailbone
Yeah,
accident.
Video with the bike.
I wrecked a mini bike.
Yeah, the one where you're riding the bike and then you go off screen and you don't come back for a while?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this video now. I didn't realize your butt was still ailing from that.
Yeah.
Sorry about your butt, man.
Right? It shouldn't still be ailing, should
I
it?
don't think so.
Maybe a fraction.
Where does
bone
it hurt?
bruises. A fracture
Tailbone.
would probably heal quicker than a bone bruise, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know that tailbone injuries can last for
I'm a little
months
worried
and
about
months
your
and
butt.
months.
I'm a little worried about my butt, too.
I'm not worried about your butt at
It's
all.
a great place to start the show.
Absolutely. So why don't we transition from butt talk and get into
But
the
why?
Walk.
2-minute drill?
Let's go, huddle up. Gotta hurry. Hey, 2-minute situation, 44 seconds, hand the ball to the ref. Gonna do it right. 3 jet Buckeye on 1 3.
The 2-minute drill starts now.
On a recent episode of the podcast Smartless, Joe Buck said that he tends to get criticism from the public because fans are used to hearing their local broadcasters. And when they hear a national commentator get excited for a big play by the opposing team, they don't like the way that sounds. Daniel, is this a fair assessment of why everyone hates Joe Buck?
No, not at all. Absolutely not. Because here's Joe Buck calling a game-winning home run in the World Series. Drive. Deep to left field. Gone. Is that overexcitement about the other team, or is that just being a terrible broadcaster?
He also talked in that podcast about like letting moments sit and not over talking.
Yeah, I get that. But
Yeah.
you know what you do? You go, drive deep to left field. Game over. Let it sit. You don't let it sit through the whole thing. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And also, people aren't used to local broadcasters anymore. They're used to watching games on TV. You know what? I mean, besides baseball games, NFL games aren't locally. Those aren't local broadcasters on TV. Get out of here, Joe Buck.
Yeah. Joe Butt, more like.
No, that's my butt.
Oh.
In response to LeBron James' public criticism of the end of the hit show Squid Game, which looks super creepy, the show's creator, Hwang Dong-hyuk, I think I pronounced that right. Is it Hyuk?
Probably.
Hyuk? I don't know. Simply said, you should have just said the show's creator. Come on, who wrote this? Said, have you seen Space Jam 2? Ooh, sick burn. Justin, you've seen both productions. Which one is better?
It's clear and obvious that Space Jam 2 is the superior production, the superior cinematic production. I mean, Squid Game's okay, super weird, super dark, super creepy, but at the end of the season, they just kind of set up the next season instead of like letting that season end in like some kind of a big dramatic way. So that was LeBron's specific complaint, was like, hey, couldn't there have been like a fight or an explosion or a car chase or something that would keep our attention? So yeah, I'm with LeBron. In a twist, I'm with LeBron. Tom Brady said during a Monday Night Manning cast that basically all defensive players are dumb. Is kind of like a dog chasing a car. Just get the guy with the ball. Daniel, in your experience, are defensive players dumb?
No. Not any dumber than any other football player.
Whoa.
What?
So football players are
On
dumb.
offense, their job is to get the guy with the ball past the car. Like, what? I mean, you can make a stupid analogy for anything. Like, what are you talking about? As a coach once told me, football was a game created by PE teachers for PE teachers. I think he meant that as a burn, but he was a football coach.
Like an insult to PE teachers?
I think, oh, that could be too. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't created by rocket scientists or surgeons. Rocket surgeons. That's where I was trying to go. Justin, what is your strategy for fantasy football? No real reason for the question other than my team, the Fighting Poopy Butt Soup, are winless.
So
I need some help.
So a couple things. One is my main strategy is I try to get the guys who I think are going to score the most points, and I put them on my team. Also, thank you for buzzing me. Also, I am exactly one spot ahead of you in both of the leagues that we're in together, so I don't know that I'm the best person to go to for that advice.
You're the reason why my team had to change from 2 team names so far this year.
Okay.
The first one I said pop, lock it, drop it.
Like
And
Tyler
then you
Lockett.
didn't.
Tyler
And then you
Lockett.
didn't draft
And
Lockett.
then he drafted Lockett right before I could. So then he changed his team
Now
name
you had the
to
first overall pick, so it wasn't before you could.
this guy.
You would have been better off to take Lockett with the first
I
overall
would
pick.
have. I would have been better off because Christian McCaffrey runs CMC to the injured list. Like, that's all he does. And then we were in the battle at the toilet bowl, as it were.
Yeah.
And after that defeat, I had to change my name from Baby Chark to really what they are, which is the Poopy Butt Soups.
Yeah. Also, when I beat you in the toilet bowl, that has sparked a really long winning streak for me. I've won 2 games in a row now.
Whoa.
So
Whoa.
now I'm technically in
So-
second to last place, but I'm tied with someone who's right ahead
The
of me.
real secret to Justin's success was beat Poopy Butt Soup,
That's
and
true.
everything goes up from there.
Well, I mean, it's worked for the rest of the league. I gotta say, I mean,
You're having a struggle.
you're tied with somebody. I'm tied with all the teams who aren't even playing in our league. They have just as many wins in our league as I do.
That's true.
Sorry, that got my
Actually,
throat.
you're probably below them because you have more losses in league.
No, that's a good point. Going back to Squid Game,
Yeah.
this is a little interesting to me. So, because you were like, LeBron's main criticism was that they just kind of set up the next season.
Yeah.
Isn't that literally what every TV show does when they know they're going to have a next season? I mean, sometimes there's a little bit of a wrap up and they're like, oh, yeah, wrap up. And then all of a sudden, cliffhanger. And you're like, huh, good thing I just binged this show on Netflix. Man, I really got something in my throat.
Is that
You okay?
is that a little bit more of a traditional TV show thing, and whereas like the new shows that people like, maybe LeBron's more used to newer shows that are more of a planned arc rather than like
Maybe.
the traditional everything, like just, we just keep doing seasons.
I think it's funny. Man, your eyes are watering.
I know.
So now I'm worried about your butt and your cough. So I think it's interesting, to be honest, that this thing that LeBron said even made headlines, because I watched the video of where that quote actually came from, and it was like, press conference, LeBron's having a press conference, AD's coming up next. So LeBron's like, okay, we done? All right, good. And then he walks off, and as Anthony Davis is passing him, they stop for like 15 seconds and talk just to each other.
Okay.
And it was like, oh, did you watch the Squid Game finale? Oh, yeah, I watched the Squid Game finale. What did you think? Oh, I was kind of disappointed with the way they ended it. Couldn't there have been a fight? That's what the whole thing came from. So it wasn't like LeBron tweeted or sat down with and was like really criticizing. It was like a conversation between 2 guys that just happened to be in front of
Now,
media people.
with as calculated as LeBron is, do you really think that was an accident that he had this conversation with Anthony Davis, like he hadn't seen them already that day and talked about Squid Game right in front of all the media people?
No, I think he saw it as an opportunity for like a little bit of funny attention, and he took it. But it wasn't like I don't think he had a calculated thought in his head that going into it, I'm going to sideswipe Squid Game. I don't think he went into it with that. But it definitely, like, they were kind of, like, goofing around and playing it up loud. So, like, they definitely didn't care that other people heard.
Yeah.
But I thought it was funny if you just read the headlines of LeBron takes a shot at Squid Game finale or whatever. It wasn't really that.
Yeah.
But also, I thought it was kind of fun that the creator responded to it.
Yes.
I think this kind of banter is actually really fun.
I agree. Especially when he throws out Space Jam 2.
Yeah, which is probably the best movie of the year, I'd say.
I heard that it was poopy poopy butt butt soup.
Well, you haven't watched it, so.
Oh, that's a good point.
You know another thing.
I haven't watched Squid Game either. It looks stressful.
Okay, you want to talk about Squid Game? Andrew, have you seen it?
Nope.
Okay,
Don't
so
even know what we're talking about.
It's one of those Netflix, like top 10. You know, one of those Netflix shows that becomes like a huge trend, and people binge it and
Isn't
watch
it? It's a Korean show, right?
Yeah, but it's dubbed over, so like it's not
Oh.
subtitled.
How are the dubs?
They're pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, and overall, I think the show is very interesting. It's also very disturbing and dark, and there's like massive amounts of death and destruction.
See, from the name Squid Games, I kind of was assuming it was a kids show.
Yeah, no, it's not. And then I've
It's
heard
not
other
like a
people
sequel
say-
to SpongeBob.
I've
That's
heard
what I
other
was
people
envisioning.
say that it's a game show for your life, like it's a game show to the death, but it's not a game show.
No.
It's like adults playing kids games, and then like super rich people bet on them, and then the winner gets like a huge prize, only person to
So
survive.
professional sports,
except with death, like more death.
Like
more deaths.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
okay.
red light, green light, but if you don't stop in time, you get shot.
Yes, exactly.
That was the scene that I've heard people talk about.
Right.
That sounds messed up.
Yeah, it's like a Hunger Games, Thunderdome, that type of thing.
Okay.
You know, where like you get a bunch of people against their will into this place, and then they have to
But
try and
it's
survive.
not against their will.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The prizes are
How
that
much
good.
do you want to know?
But
So
they didn't know it was to the death, though.
They didn't at first, but
So
what they
that
do is
tells me-
they
So
bring
that's
all,
uninformed
Yeah.
consent. You can't give consent if you're not informed
hold
fully.
on. This is what they did. So they bring in a bunch of really desperate people. Like they somehow know these are all the people who have like a tremendous amount of debt and are absolutely desperate for money.
What
And
do you mean
bring
they somehow know? They cruised social media for a half hour?
I don't know. Maybe. But they bring all these super desperate people together, and they think they're at first that they're just playing a game,
Okay.
and then all of a sudden, like massive amounts of people are murdered.
Yeah.
But then they let all of the survivors go, and they say, "Okay, well, if you guys vote to that the game is over, then everyone can just go. But if everyone agrees and they want to come back and play, you can come back and play."
So
and
wait,
all these
is
people
it
go.
all or nothing? Like if...
Yeah. Well, yeah, they say in the beginning that whoever survives through all 6 games will split the prize, I think is how they say it.
No, I mean, like...
Does each person decide for themselves if they get to
Yeah.
go back, or do they vote? And if they voted against going back, but more people voted to go back,
Yeah.
they
Is it majority rules, or I'm not going back, peace? Or
Yeah.
is it, 8 other people said we are going back, so
No,
I'm
because
stuck?
when they went back, there was a few people that didn't go.
Okay.
But almost everybody did.
Okay.
So, yeah, they gave them the choice that, yeah, you can go back to your horrible, desperate life.
I
and
feel like that's
probably-
even worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this show's worse than I thought it was.
They completely manipulated the people like that.
Yeah.
They were like, let's
That's
find
horrible.
the people who would be most desperate to get back into this scenario. And then they,
Wow.
yeah.
This is
It's
gnarly.
really disturbing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't,
What's this guy's name? Huang?
I kind of,
I mean,
I would say I enjoyed it.
Hwang.
I also have
I'm
not,
sure that I'm not pronouncing that right, but
I have not recommended it to anyone because it's pretty messed up.
it's pretty brutal.
Yeah. But do you want to know the other thing that Tom Brady said that I thought was funny in that Manning cast?
Sure.
He said, sometimes you walk into a defensive meeting room and you listen to the guys talk and you're like, oh yeah, that's why you play defense. And you figure it out in like 2 minutes that's why these guys play defense. Like he was really going hard after the defensive players for being dumb.
I would just love it if one of the defensive players just accidentally forgot that he was wearing a red jersey during practice once.
Because they were too dumb.
Yeah, be like, oh, sorry, Tom. I was too dumb to remember that color. Also, not everybody gets to wear the Magic Don't Touch Me jersey all day. Tom.
Yeah, Tom.
It sounds to me like he wandered into the DN's room.
So defensive ends are done.
Yeah,
Who are you-
generally speaking.
Why are we trying to...
It isn't that they're inherently dumb. It's that you don't have to be smart to play D-end generally. You need to be an athletic freak, and you have to go towards quarterback.
Go towards quarterback.
Get the car.
So it isn't. Not all DNs are dumb, but you can be an
But you
NFL
can be
DN.
dumb.
You can be an NFL DN and be dumb.
You know what? You can be dumb and play any position in the NFL.
Even
No, I don't
quarterback?
think so. I don't think that you can get to that. There's a few positions that without you might be dumb in other situations, but you have to have a certain level of football smarts to be able to make it.
Okay, so
to
now
that
you're creating
level.
a different type of smart, though.
Well, I'm saying that you have to be smart in
So-
some way.
Well, I mean,
You
the
can be dumb in
defensive
different
end,
ways.
The defensive end can be like dumb as a rock, but football smart at doing the correct
He
D-end
could be,
moves.
but he doesn't have to be.
He does have to be if he's
No,
going to be
if
an
he's an
effective-
athletic freak, he doesn't have to be.
You can't be that much of an NFL of a freak that you don't know how to do defensive end moves and time them correctly and be smart enough football wise to do that.
I think that there are DNs out there we could find that would
That
ruin
lit-
your argument
that
because
are
they don't
literally-
do end moves
they're
and they
just-
literally just
they're literally
bull
just
rush,
pushing
they
a guy into the
literally
quarterback.
Just bull rush the quarterback every time.
Go find him. I'll wait.
Or speed rush.
Have I ever told you guys that one of my favorite things in the world is when the two of you get into these like really intense, short, hair-splitting arguments? And then, so whenever that happens, I usually just laugh. Like, I just sit here and just laugh, and I don't say a single word. Because I know that when I go back and I listen to the podcast in the next couple days, I'm going to be like, they didn't really disagree that much, actually.
And they both sound like idiots and dickheads.
Funny. It's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah, all right.
He'll be like, Andrew was right.
You know how to poke me so much. Oh, it's time for Justin's favorite part of the show.
Serving questions up on a silver platter where the points are made up and the rules don't matter. Time for Stump Daniel.
Daniel? Stump Daniel is brought to you by the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz. Just wanted to throw that out there. Thank you to the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Domashevitz and to our other sponsor as well, Ole Penn Real Estate. Thank you for helping make this show possible.
Yes.
We appreciate it. Mm-hmm. The listeners should appreciate it as well.
Daniel
Yeah.
doesn't appreciate it.
Because
I appreciate it.
he's trying to start a
Daniel's found a way to make Stump Daniel always about tasting candy. He brought his own this week.
Yeah, and I know last week when there was no candy, you were really disappointed. I'm
was.
sorry.
Yeah.
I got a couple questions for you, Daniel. We're going to make this short and sweet.
Okay.
So Derrick Henry,
Yeah.
going into today's game against the Colts, had 5,681 rushing yards over his last 50 games.
Wow.
That includes postseason. So we already knew, I remember we talked about this last week, he broke the record for most rushing yards over a 40 game span in NFL history.
Oh, wow.
That was a couple weeks ago. So he is literally...
In this era, that's insane.
Yeah, and he is literally on a historic run. But if you go to a 50-game span, including the postseason, there is one player in NFL history who has more rushing yards over any 50-game span than Derrick Henry did. So I'm going to give you a little hint on this one. Think guys who were really great for a short period of time.
Oh, for a short period
For
of
a
time.
short period of time, but really great.
There's two that come to mind.
And it
Depends
is
on how short of period of time.
within your lifetime as well. It's not going back like, 50 years or anything.
Then I'm going to guess Barry Sanders.
It is not Barry Sanders. That was a good guess.
My other thought, but when you said within my lifetime, I'm not sure how long ago it was. Bo Jackson?
Bo Jackson is another good guess, but
Okay.
not correct.
Okay, who is it?
It's Terrell Davis.
Oh. Oh.
That and I believe he played late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
He is a Hall of Famer because he is one of the few players who ever rushed for over 2,000 yards, won a couple of Super Bowls, and was a huge part of the Broncos offense. But Terrell Davis, over a 50-game span, rushed for 5,863 yards.
Wow.
2 more than Derrick Henry over his last 50 games.
And yet people will be like, it was just because the offensive line was so good. They just plugged any running back into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, next question. Nick Saban, Daniel, turned 70 years old today.
Wow.
The only head coach to win the national title at 70 years old or older is who? This is a very famous coach who coached like his whole life. Like was really, really old, obviously, by the end of his coaching career.
Well, that takes out the first guy I was going to say. Because he's gotten real old as a broadcaster and you literally can't understand the words coming out of his mouth the last.
Oh, Lou Holtz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
John Clayton's going to Lou Holtz, I feel like.
Yeah, I think yes. Well, the Clayton thing makes me sad, but also it's just that I can't listen to him anymore. Like, if he's on, he'll go, that's just really stupid because blah, 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 and that's just really stupid. And he will say what his opinion is, but never explain it or support his argument, but he speaks really strongly about things still. And I think his brain's getting a little mushy.
And then he'll just be like, and the Steelers are great, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, that too.
And the Browns are they're just a terrible organization. They're just never going to be good.
College coaches, right? That's what we're talking about?
College coaches. The last college coach to win, or actually the only head coach to win a national title at 70 years old or older.
I don't know.
You give up?
I give up.
Bobby Bowden in 1999. Florida State coach Bobby Bowden. That was a tough question.
You couldn't even
about
come
that
up
guy.
with the old coach name.
I know. Bobby Bowden would have been the... Yeah, he's like the epitome of old coach. I forgot that they won that recently. Florida State's so trash now. What's up with that?
Okay, I got one more question for you. This is baseball related.
Okay.
Jose Altuve.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, me too. Has 23 home runs in his postseason career, passing Bernie Williams for second most all time. What player has more postseason home runs? The most postseason home runs? I gotta admit that the answer to this surprised me a tiny bit.
This makes me so sad because, like, this just shows how few times Ken Griffey Jr. made it in the postseason.
Yeah.
'Cause he had like 5 in one 5-game series.
Part owner of the Seattle Mariners, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'll give you a hint if you want it.
I'll just go with Reggie Jackson.
Ooh, I'm sorry, that's not correct. That was a
Dang.
really good guess, though, Mr. October.
Yeah, I thought it was worth a shot.
The correct answer is Manny Ramirez.
Really?
29 home runs
Wow.
in his postseason career.
My favorite analysis of Manny Ramirez
Is
was...
that's just Manny being Manny?
Yeah, well, it's kind of. But do you remember when Colin Cowherd was on ESPN and he was talking about how Alex Rodriguez thought too much to be a good hitter in clutch situations?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, yeah, he'd be like, well, what's my agent going to say? What am I going to do later? What if the press asks me about something? Strike 3. He's like, then you got Manny Ramirez who's just like, I like Fruity Pebbles. I like Cocoa Puffs. And hitting dingers. And you're just like, yep. So maybe baseball players are the stupid ones.
Yeah. I mean, was that ever in question?
Good
We were
point.
just...
Kidding.
Has
Actually,
Brady ever met baseball players? He's been so busy playing football. Doesn't have anything to compare to.
so that will conclude this edition of Stump Daniel. Not
I
as
lost.
elaborate as normal, but well, you didn't get any.
You've been
questions right.
stumped.
So I'm gonna say those were all really hard questions, but you didn't get any right. But you should. So this is you come out of it knowing you lost. But was there a question there that you thought I really should have got that?
All of them. I thought he should have got them all.
What was the first one again?
Terrell Davis.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I should have got any of
So
those.
you shouldn't feel bad. You shouldn't feel bad coming out of it.
Well, that's a good thing.
Can
'cause
I be
don't.
honest about what I just did? Because as I've told you before, I'm completely incapable of not allowing the listener behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I didn't prepare a Stump Daniel segment, so I just went to the ESPN stats and info page and found 3 tweets that I thought were interesting and then asked you those questions.
I like that.
Thank you.
Resourceful.
Thank you.
Maybe we should get an actual curtain for the seemingly at least once a show when you're like, should we allow the listeners behind the curtain? And I can just be like, hold up the curtain.
If it's only if it's only once a show, that's pretty low.
That's
That
true.
is.
It's often more.
Just like when you had to tell everybody why I was a little taller in my chair today.
Yeah.
All
that was
right.
funny.
I
So
think you told everybody why you were low.
That honestly, that was great radio. That led to an incredible conversation about your butt. We talked about your butt for like a full minute after that.
it's getting some good runs.
How was your butt, by the way? Your butt's getting the runs? All right, let's tighten it up now.
my butt?
We can move on.
I have been doing exercises.
We can move on to. Sorry, I keep looking away because I'm checking my
We're talking Seahawks.
fantasy score here.
Hey, yeah, tell me your
I'm
wisdom.
doing really well, actually. Last week I won all 3 of my games.
Well, I didn't.
Moving on to the Seahawks.
Yes.
So there was a sound from Mina Khan.
I'm
I'm going to
losing
start
90
taking your
to
guys'
5.
phones away.
90-5.
I'm losing 90 to 5.
That's
Oh,
bad.
And that's my good team.
That's bad.
How many players are playing tonight?
A lot.
Okay, good.
I mean,
That's bad.
and then my other team is losing. Oh, no, it's winning, but I'm projected to lose. Okay. Anyway.
In the process of losing. It's
That-
ahead
nobody-
right now.
yeah,
but in the process of
Exactly.
losing.
Nobody cares about that. Though, let's talk about the Seahawks. I know that we are
Also in
recording
the
this-
process of losing.
No, they haven't started yet. So we got 20 minutes until we got 20 minutes until the game
I'd
starts.
say it's
Touche.
we could say that they're in the process of losing.
I mean, if they put in their best quarterback on the roster, who I'm wearing the jersey of,
Yeah.
We can't
They'd
see it.
win.
Stand up.
Oh, careful of your butt. Careful of your butt.
Number 6. There you go.
I am also
Andrew
laughing-
got me this
I
jersey.
don't-
Yes.
How much can the camera see?
I don't
Can
know.
the camera see that now?
Yep.
Are you taking
Okay.
him
Says
behind
Oregon
the curtain
State.
again?
I'm wearing an
Beavers.
Oregon State Beavers
Yeah,
shirt.
because we know who should be playing quarterback, not Geno Smith.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
As Daniel pointed out off air before the show, Jake Luton wears number 6, so he's twice as good as Russell Wilson.
Exactly.
He's also like 8 inches taller than Russell Wilson.
7.
7. 7's almost 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's close.
But as far as Seahawks go,
Yeah, we got ourselves an interesting discussion here earlier in the week. Was this what, Monday?
it was Tuesday. So because the Seahawks played on Monday,
Right, they
Yeah.
played Monday night, so it was
after
Tuesday.
the Monday night game, First Take had Mina Kimes on, and they were talking about Pete Carroll and whether or not Pete Carroll should have a future in Seattle, or I guess the more accurate description of the conversation would be, should moving on from Pete Carroll be on the table?
Yeah.
So let's listen to the sound from First Take.
All right, and before I roll it, I just want to make clear that I edited out a big chunk in the middle where Keyshawn Johnson was talking and
That's a good
Stephen
call.
A was talking, and so
good call.
I
Yep.
Stephen and A and Keyshawn are edited down to just their like minimum.
Smart.
Do you think the Seahawks should consider moving on from Pete Carroll?
I think that unless there's some dramatic changes, it has to be on the table. And that's hard for me to say. I think Pete Carroll is a tremendous leader, clearly beloved by his players, one of the most successful coaches in Seattle sports history, frankly. But, I've watched every decision he's made as the Seahawks coach, and there's been too many bad ones, too many issues with clock management. I'm talking recent years, too many punts in opponents' territory, too much conservative play calling back. That includes when Russell Wilson was the quarterback. And this is not a reaction to last night, but you can point to last night and say, well, Geno Smith's not a good quarterback, hence some of the decisions to run the ball. I don't care if it's Gino Auriemma under center. You don't run the ball into the teeth of the Saints defense over and over and over and expect a different result. They faced 11 eight-man boxes. They ran into 9 of them for 1 yards per carry. I think what we're seeing right now is that Russell Wilson, as Pete Carroll kind of admitted there, covered up for a lot of the issues in Seattle for a long time. Obviously, the defense hasn't been good for a long time. And yeah, the head coach does need to be held accountable.
With all due respect, I really don't know what the hell is wrong with y'all right now. Pete Carroll has coached the Seahawks for the last 11 seasons. He's made the playoffs 9 times. The last 3 years, he went to the playoffs 3 years ago with 10 wins. Went to the playoffs 2 years ago with 11. Went to the playoffs last year with 12. And we're looking at him and saying, well, you know what? I don't know. I mean, it might be time. I mean, wait a minute now. It's not like we're looking at somebody that missed the playoffs.
I say one more year.
They didn't miss the playoffs because they have one of the best quarterbacks in football. Pete Carroll just admitted it to us, frankly.
Wait a minute.
My concern here, Stephen A., after spending an entire offseason speculating about what Russell Wilson wants, is that they're wasting the prime of his career, and he might try to push his way out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair.
Lots of good points there by Mina.
I really like the part where she talked about how they faced all those 8-man boxes, and almost every time there was an 8-man box, they ran right into it, because it reminded me also of when the Seahawks were playing the Rams. And it was like, hey, we have a 4th and 1. Let's run the ball right into Aaron Donald with Alex Collins. Like, some of this stuff, like, some of it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Especially offensively. And every time it seems like we're going to get this fresh wrinkle or things are going to change in the offense, whether it was with Schottenheimer or now with Shane Waldron, there seems to be a heck of a lot of old stuff still dominating the offense.
Also, I think that there's an important point there, because everyone talks about establishing the run, whether they think it's important to do that or whether they think it's dumb to try to do that. But if you're facing an 8-man box in the NFL, you have established the run. That is the point. When you say we need to establish the run, what you're saying is we want to establish that the defense is selling out to stop the run. You did that with you now have established the run, and you should not continue to run. You should then use the passing game that's been opened up. In theory.
Yeah, exactly. That is the theory. I mean, you can say that both with running or passing.
Absolutely.
If all of a sudden you have 2 deep high safeties and they're falling back into coverage all the time, then you run.
Then you don't keep throwing it to the other team.
But this is a discussion that I feel like, I've been on kind of Mina's side for this. I haven't gone as far as saying that they need to get rid of Pete Carroll, but...
Well, and what she said, to be clear, was it should be on the table.
Yeah, and I think that's about as far as I've gone before. Like, after last year's playoffs, when they lost in the first round to the Rams, and Andrew and I were incensed and talking about how they have underperformed. Yes, they've made the playoffs all these times, but they hadn't made it into an NL championship game for how long? Was it the Super Bowl? Was the Super Bowl, second Super Bowl, was that the last time they made it to a championship game?
I think it was even like they hadn't made it to the NFC championship game.
Yeah.
You said NL.
Said NL. Sorry, baseball.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so the last time they made it to the NFC championship game was in 2014. When you have Russell Wilson, to me, that's not good enough. Like,
you can get to the playoffs by having Russell Wilson.
Exactly.
A good coach
that's the thing.
Should be, and I'm not saying Pete isn't a good coach,
yeah,
but a good coach performing well should be able to put a great quarterback past the playoffs, just the playoffs.
Yeah. And I think that's where it comes to for me. And I brought up this discussion between the three of us. Is it seems like defensive coaches are always trying to get their hands into the offense a lot more than you hear offensive coaches trying to get their hands into the defense. You know, you hear offensive coaches and somebody asks them about the defense and they're like, I don't know, that's my defensive coach's job.
They're like, I don't even know those guys' names.
Exactly. Like, who cares? I mean, if you're Mike Leach, he really doesn't care. But, I mean, that's the general sentiment of, like, you know, the McShays and the Shanahans are like, I got a guy for that. And yet Pete Carroll, it seems like he's always like, no. Stop doing your stuff. Stop it. Stop. Nope. Don't. Run the ball more. And you're just like, bro, let me get into what I'm good at. I mean, Shane Waldron came from an offense with the Rams that runs the ball a ton. It's not that he doesn't run the ball, and yet it just seems like it's just constant constriction. And that's coming from the outside. Who knows what's actually going on, but
you can see a pattern, though.
Yeah,
like we can assume based on the pattern of the fact that through all these different offensive coordinators, things have changed very little.
Exactly. And, I mean, we heard it with Schottenheimer because they came out and they were throwing the ball all over, and then they had a game where Russell Wilson threw a couple picks, and Pete Carroll literally described it as a come-to-Jesus meeting after that and was like, all right, let's calm down. Let's get back to doing Pete Carroll ball here. None of this fancy stuff. And it seemed like it happened even faster with Shane Waldron. And there wasn't even any catastrophic games with lots of picks. It was the first half of the first game looked amazing. And then since then, it's been like, oh, maybe that play was a little different. But it's not been like multiple times where you're like, oh, that's really cool concept here. Like, there's been a couple sprinkled in here and there, but it's not been like anything different.
And that's ultimately where I feel like it's so hard to sort all this out just looking from the outside, because is that 100% Pete and this is the way Pete wants to do things? Because he does have this like general overarching philosophy. And I think that when he gets his hands in the offense, like you were saying, a lot of it is, well, we need to run the offense with my overall football philosophy, which is basically don't turn the ball over and who cares what else happens, and we'll kick it 1,000 times if we have to.
Yeah.
But
don't turn the ball over except for punts are okay.
Is it the fact
he loves punts?
Yeah.
Yeah. But then when it comes to the offense and how the offense flows, we don't really know if that's Pete or Russ, because even when things were struggling last year, I remember watching games with you or watching film with you, and you're going, there's a drag route over the middle. Lockett is open, and Russ is just not throwing it.
That's true.
So this is the hardest thing for me to figure out about the offensive side of things. Is it Pete or is it Russ that makes it so we can't, it seems the Seahawks can't have that quick release passing game consistently like we really want them to.
Yeah. And I've had that opinion so hard that when Geno Smith came in and had that 198-yard drive,
Daniel was ready to jump on the
bandwagon. I was literally going, wow, it's nice to have a decisive quarterback. Now, that has yet, I mean, that...
It was nice for a drive.
That drive was awesome. Geno is trash. But that one drive, I was like, wow, this is what it looks like when you hit your back foot and you throw the darn thing. Russell, the thing that drives me nuts with Russell is I think he's gotten so used to having to run for his life constantly that now that is just ingrained in his head. Mm-hmm. And so instead of, hey, I have that in my back pocket that if I need to, I can run for my life, it's just kind of like, oh, I make all these big plays if I scramble around. Mm-hmm. And so he's not on schedule that often. And I think that's just hammered into him from his
He's still great.
Yeah, he's still great. He's still amazing. I'm not saying that he's not, but there was a few times, especially last year, where I was like, okay, dude, if you just take your first read, like if your first read's open, hit it. But I don't know.
It's occurring to me that if it's Russell, it still comes back. If that problem with the offense is Russell, it still comes back to Pete through 3 different coordinators never to teach his quarterback not to rely on that.
Or to get offensive linemen that would
if Russ,
actually get him out of that.
If Russ is doing it, if it's Russ's preference to do that, Pete is at the very least encouraging it.
It's the whole
possibly
boils
it's Russ
down to
doing
whoever's in charge.
doing it Pete's way.
Your view is personally it's whoever it boils down to whoever's in charge.
Yeah.
That's fair. That is fair. Everything ultimately has to come down on the head coach, especially one like Pete who even has like veto rights over personnel decisions. Like, I know John Schneider is the GM, and like they get a lot of credit for him, him being really smart, and then also them doing stuff together. But part of Pete bringing John in was, hey, you're the GM, but I'm still technically above you and below you at the same time. He's making like a Pete Carroll, John Schneider sandwich by being on top and the bottom. But
did not need that.
There's so much accountability that by having the structure that way, Pete, like, he has to take it, right? He has to take the responsibility.
Yeah.
And he does. I mean, a lot of this is sparked by the fact that after the Monday night game, he said, well, maybe I wouldn't have been so successful here if it wasn't for a quarterback like us.
I think he said I wouldn't have been. I think he said
he said maybe I wouldn't have.
Oh, okay.
Well, either way, it shouldn't be a maybe statement. We've seen what's happened. If you don't have an awesome quarterback in the NFL, you're not going to last long as a coach. That's why every coach comes in and tries to change the quarterback as quickly as possible, and they hope to God that they pick the right one. And if you don't, you're not going to be around for more than 3 years. You're done.
And so that's what I'm worried about. So what I'm worried about is there's all these teams out there all across the NFL. I mean, it might even be the majority who are just cycling coaches every 1, 2, 3 years. Fired, new coach, fired, new coach, fired, new coach. So whatever players you have, specifically what quarterbacks you have, are constantly learning new systems, and you never get any continuity. You never have a chance to build anything that's great because you don't have enough time.
Yeah.
And I've just seen that cycle all across the NFL, and having Pete be here for so long with such a tremendous amount of success, I mean, it seems like we're getting to the point where the game's passing him by. He's how old? 70? Right?
Something like that, yeah.
And like Mina pointed out some specific things that we've all been complaining about for years, about the unwillingness to go for it, the seemingly loving to kick the ball, whether it's punts or field goals, the overly conservative play calling in scenarios when you shouldn't be overly conservative. Yeah. Like, none of that's new, and none of it's changing.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying Pete should be fired, because I'm nervous about what it would be like if he's gone. Like,
exactly.
who's to say whether or not whatever coach you bring in next is going to be good enough? And then are you just going to be cycling through coaches every 3 years like all these other teams are?
Yeah, exactly. You know that he's successful, and you know that he is a good coach, and you don't know what that next coach will be. So that unknown, I think for at least both of us, is scarier than staying with Pete. I mean, because that's how I feel. Unless staying with Pete means the unknown of not having Russ. Because I'll pick Russ over Pete every time.
Yeah.
And I think you've seen franchises across the league do that over and over. You don't go up against it's the old replacements line. You don't go up against the multi-million-dollar quarterback and win. You'll lose every time.
And we don't know if there's a Russ versus Pete dynamic. They kind of go back and forth where it seems like they're at odds, and then it seems like they're all in together. And I think in general, it seems like they mostly are on the same page. I just even guys like, so I'll throw Kyle Shanahan out there as a for instance. This is a guy who's like praised across the league. Like, look how great this guy is. His teams are terrible. He's like 31-39 in as a head coach. He's had several years to prove it, and they did make it to a Super Bowl once.
Yeah.
But as a whole, he's got way more losing than winning on his record.
Yeah, and you look at the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
I mean, and the injuries. I mean,
injuries
for
have been
some
really
reason
significant there.
Like, I don't know if it's a staff thing or their field is that trash.
I've heard that brought up.
But
both of those things.
Injuries are just garbage. But you also look at their quarterback situation. Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, when they went to this Super Bowl, they were running like crazy. They were like, they didn't trust him to throw anything more than a pitch to a running back. So
it's just hard. And then there's
can a coach win without a quarterback?
There's the emotional legacy side of things too, because Pete Carroll is the coach who brought you Russell Wilson, and he brought you all these great players. He brought you the Legion of Boom. He brought you a winning mentality. He's constantly in the playoffs. He brought you a Super Bowl championship. And for his tenure to end unceremoniously would suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really would.
You want him to be able to ride off into the sunset his own way. And some of these guys, like, they just have a hard time recognizing when it's time.
Yeah. I think this just popped into my head because you mentioned all those great players that Pete Carroll and his regime brought us. I think the biggest thing that amazes me with Bill Belichick and how good he is as a coach and a GM, because he doesn't have a GM, does he?
He is like the president of
the
universe.
He's like the head guy there, right? So the more surprising thing, not just, I mean, he also had Tom Brady, so that you have that guy, that quarterback, that helps, obviously. But as we've seen with Russell, I mean, we've had Russell, and you see teams with Drew Brees, and I don't think that Tom Brady is that much better than those other quarterbacks, that is the only difference. It is shocking to me how Bill Belichick continued to draft and put together amazing teams with great defenses and great talent all around Tom Brady, even with terrible draft position. Because that's one of the things that I've looked at with the Seahawks team, and I'm like, oh man, there's another draft bust, or there's another, like, all these late first-round draft picks, and it's kind of a crapshoot at that point. And then you look at the Patriots, and you're like, how did they constantly build excellent teams with crappy draft position?
Bill Belichick is great at drafting offensive linemen and defensive players.
Oh, that'd be
and
nice.
Terrible at drafting offensive skill players. His track record of drafting offensive skill players is god-awful. Well, tons of whiffs there, but Brady made up for that, you know?
Yeah.
And the fact that Brady teamed with a really good offensive line, often 2 or 3 capable running backs, and a defense that keeps you in it. You know, so
yeah, and that's kind of what the Seahawks' best game plan was, right? I mean, Russell didn't have any all-star wide receivers. I mean, before DK came, Tyler was...
He had some all-star, didn't he? But he didn't have some, like, top 10.
I mean, Sidney Rice, was he a Pro Bowler? I don't think so, and he was injured most of the time. I mean, most of the time we were like...
Baldwin was in the Pro Bowl, though, right?
Baldwin was... Okay, you're right.
So that's... I mean, like,
about Baldwin.
Yeah, like...
But...
Was Darryl Jackson?
I'm not arguing against your point.
But outside of Baldwin, it's not like...
Yeah.
Like, we were always talking about the lack of weapons besides Doug Baldwin.
It seems like we tried to get it seems like they tried to get a big wide receiver every single year.
Yes. Yeah. Pete wanted that.
Yeah. And now he's got it.
Oh gosh, does he have it?
Interesting. I don't know. What? Any final thoughts you want to say?
Not really. I mean,
about to start, by the way.
Yeah. I think you pretty much summed it up with. I wouldn't be heartbroken if Pete moves on.
I will be worried.
Also, I'll be worried about what's going to happen next because it's just so hard to find good coaches.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why
what if you end up with Jim Mora?
Yeah, that's why I'm not.
Kyle Shanahan. Ooh.
I'm not calling for Pete to be fired. What I and I think all of us are doing is we're expressing concern because we don't think what's happening right now is working.
Yeah.
And ideally, I'd like to see Pete have a come to Jesus moment with his offensive coordinator that goes the other way. And Pete steps back and says, hey, I'm going to let the offensive coordinator control timeouts and control the offensive side of the game. And I'm going to let I'm going to get a better defensive coordinator. And maybe I'm going to focus on coordinating the defense.
Yeah. Just like you see offensive head coaches go, you know what? I'm going to take over play calling on offense. Maybe Pete goes, you know what? I'm going to take over this defense. Or maybe he already has. Who knows? That's the other thing. It'd be nice to know what actually is going on and how the hierarchy of the decision-making on offense and defense is going. And also, I think we do all know that Pete is always the one who's like, nope, let's punt it. Because he loves to punt.
Oh, he does.
What happened? I mean, he used to be known as Big Balls Pete when he was in college. I guess it was a lot easier. I guess it was a lot easier when you had USC and literally, I mean, he basically had Alabama running out there, you know?
Before Pete was hired by the Seahawks, I knew Pete as that coach that went for the deep touchdown instead of kneeling down against UCLA because UCLA called a timeout. Yeah. That was all really, I hated him because he was USC coach, but all I knew about him was, that was like just the biggest FU. Yep. Like, oh, you're going to call a timeout when we're winning?
Boom.
Touchdown.
Yeah,
I don't know. Weird times. I mean,
we're all in a really bad place with the Seahawks right now.
And
there's
Justin,
a tone
I know
in this conversation that's just sad.
I know you hate this. I know you hate this comparison.
Which is why he's going to make it.
But the Blazers just fired Terry Stotts after getting him to the playoffs over and over and over and over again, and even making a deeper run more recently than Pete Carroll, and yet he got fired because it wasn't good enough.
So, and I think that what happens more often is that people just look at wins and losses, success versus failure, and make an assessment based on that. Yeah. And I think, like, the way that I appreciate this conversation happening is we're talking about here's some specific issues that are happening, not just how far did we make it in the playoffs and how many times did we make the playoffs and how many games did we win. But this is the reason why it seems like there's no success. So, like, talking about how things aren't changing with Pete and kicking too much and the way they run into 8-man boxes, like, those are the kind of things I find productive. Mm-hmm. And with Stotts, I feel like that conversation was the Blazers can't get past a certain point in the playoffs because they're exhausted, because Terry Stotts doesn't understand how to do
shift changes,
rotations, shift changes, player rotations. He doesn't understand how to keep his players fresh. Yeah. And it was proven time and time again that often the talent was there to be highly successful, and he was unable to make it be successful because 2 playoffs in a row, they looked gassed at the end of games. And I felt like with just that specific thing of, like, being able to say not just that we lost in the playoffs, but here's why it appears we lost in the playoffs. You've known you have this issue and you've proven unable to fix it. And I feel like we're starting to get to that point with Pete where it's like, okay, we've seen what it looks like now with Shane Waldron. We've seen what it looks like now for the first time without Russ for a few games. Mm-hmm. Like, there's a problem here that needs to be addressed. Let's see if you can adjust on the fly.
Who's the common denominator?
Yeah, exactly.
Now with the third offensive coordinator. All right, that checks out. I love that answer because I know that when I initially brought that up, I was really mad and we were having this argument, and then you threw it up on Twitter and made like a huge joke of Terry Stotts and Pete Carroll, and it was just like, yeah, why would that even be a discussion? And in my head, I'm like, well, one of them made it to the Western Conference Finals a lot more recently than the other coach made it to the
Western Conference Finals
NFC Championship, you know?
Yeah.
And so I was like, how is this not, like, I couldn't understand it because they both go to the playoffs constantly, and both of them are going to the playoffs constantly in my mind because they have the best players in the league, mm-hmm. or some of them on their team. Like Damian Lillard and Russell Wilson are the reason why they're going to the playoffs.
And I think there was the added effect of I wasn't worried about the Terry Stotts legacy, I guess. Like, to me, it feels like I am very apprehensive about the way things are going to end with Pete, mm-hmm. with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
And I think the Super Bowl victory does make a big difference there. You know, the first one in team history, and he was the head coach when that happens. And so now, like, I don't want it to end badly. I want him to, once he's gone, I want him to come back and make appearances at games, and we can all have positive conversations about what a great coach he was, not how unceremoniously it ended. And I didn't have that kind of feeling with Stotts either.
Well, yeah, because he never actually made it over the hump.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That checks out. All right, well, we have a lot of good local sports to get to after this break. We got playoffs coming up for football. We got a bunch of playoff stuff coming up in other sports. Lots to get to, but first we're going to take a commercial break.
Do you have a legal situation and need someone on your side? Let the law office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz be your advocate. If you've been the victim of medical malpractice, suffered a personal injury, or need representation with real estate law, small business law, or estate planning, let Jeff Damashevitz put his 29 years of experience to work for you. Call Jeff Damashevitz today at 360-612-3991 or visit damashevitzlaw.com. That's DAMASIEWICZLAW.com.
Thank you again to our sponsors, the Law Office of Jeffrey A. Damashevitz, and our other sponsor, Ole Penn Real Estate. Thank you again so much for your support. And now it is time for our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week. And Justin, man, it's just been a Montesano type of year. I mean,
it's been a great year.
They have been so dominant. And I feel like this guy's gotten snubbed a few times.
Yeah.
but he's just been a monster all season, and it's Isaiah Pierce. Isaiah Pierce had 3 touchdowns, and on 20 carries, I put him down for, let me do the calculations, a butt ton of yards.
I've been like giggling to myself for the last 3 minutes ever since I saw that's how you typed it in. If anybody's wondering, that is literally what's typed into the show sheet.
There's a
ton of yards.
There's a lot of butts on the show today.
Yeah.
Well, and I put it that way because we had him for my radio broadcast. We had him for 232 yards, and the Daily World had him for what did you say?
255.
255. Either way, he has 3 touchdowns, and really the game turned. I'm not gonna say turned. It definitely went from like a closer game in the first half, and then when they really leaned heavily on him. But I feel like on all of their scoring drives, even though he wasn't scoring the touchdowns at the end of it, it was mainly Isaiah Pierce that was putting them in position for those scores.
Yeah, I agree. And also, he did a ton of his damage in the second half. I want to say it was like 175 of his 255 were second half rushing yards. And the coach quote after the game was he was a real mutter because the field was awful.
Nasty. Yeah.
I want to say McElravy, the quarterback, Jaden McElravy, who has been pretty spot on most games this year, was something like 1 for 7 passing because you just couldn't do anything. It was really, it wasn't raining, but it was really cold and it was slick and gross out there. Also, like just temperature wise, it was only like 45. Why did it feel like 20?
It felt
was
wet.
so cold.
worse.
So wet.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway.
It was gnarly. Anyway, Isaiah Pierce had an excellent game. He also played very well on defense in that East County Civil War game, the rivalry game. Also, it was winner in, loser knocked out of the playoffs or doesn't get to go to the playoffs. So just a huge situation. So this game not only had a monster performance, but also those multipliers that we like.
We love the multipliers.
So yeah, Isaiah Pierce is our Ole Penn Real Estate Athlete of the Week. And
Congratulations.
Yes, and we're going to get more into that game right now as we get into our local sports roundup.
I wasn't ready for that one. Sorry. I didn't think you'd want it.
Montesano made the trip to Davis Field in Elma on a muddy, muddy day and
So muddy.
took that East County rivalry game 31-6. As we already mentioned, Isaiah Pierce led the Bulldogs with 255 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Jaden McElravy added 2 scores on the ground for Montesano. Emmanuel Hernandez broke a 70-yard run for Elma's lone touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, Monty's Mateo Sanchez racked up 14 tackles, and Caden Lovell recovered a fumble and intercepted a pass for the Bulldogs.
I got it. Oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say the win locked up the 3rd seed for the Bulldogs, who will advance to a play-in crossover game against La Center.
I got to say, Austin Salazar for Elma.
He's a big boy.
That's a big boy. He's
Big
a
boy.
beast. He had a ton of tackles as well and just was trying to grind it against that Montesano defense. Didn't work out great for him, but I was hoping it would.
Runs, though.
He did have some good runs, and really the style of the game with how muddy the field was, I was really hoping he would have a better game on offense because it just fit kind of the style of the feel of the game. By the way, Andrew, can you pause the music for a second?
Maybe.
Can we get a new field for Elma already?
Yeah.
Like, seriously, people. Seriously. Can we make that happen? Are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, the stands have been gone for years now. This needs to happen.
Do you have any insight as to why it has not happened?
Because it gets voted down. It's gone, I mean, 3-4 times?
The theory...
It's gone to the public?
Yeah, so they're
city,
trying to...
is that city?
Yeah.
Citizens. It's not like city council. They've done a vote of the citizens in Elma, and they keep voting it down.
And there's been a few different reasons that people have floated out why it's getting voted down. I think the most common... Well, first of all, it's a property tax increase that they're trying to pass. And people feel like the city has kind of nickeled and dimed them over everything for years, and it's like, hey, we got to put our foot down somewhere. The other thing is there's a really, really high percentage of retired people, like old people who have retired and don't have children anymore, who are living in Elma, and people in Elma think that those people are voting no because they're like, well, what am I investing in? I don't have children who are going to play on this field. I don't know what's right and what's not, but I do know those are a couple of the reasons I've heard floated out for why there's no field.
I wonder if they'd be able to raise money voluntarily if they had if they set up a nonprofit and started fundraising. Like the school kids could fundraise and stuff, and it seems like that might be a better way, because I know a lot of people will look cross-eyed at tax increases, but they'll happily be like,
Donate
yeah,
to
I'll
kids.
toss $100 at a stadium fund that I know gets put towards the stadium.
Am I terrible for thinking that they needed their grandstands to burn down for them to actually get the community support behind this?
Well, the other hard
What happened?
part,
Did they just knock them down?
They
Demolish
were
they were
them?
condemned
They were
because
condemned.
they were unsafe. And they
Yes.
had to take
Yeah,
them
so they weren't taking care of the stadium in the first place.
But the other hard part about this is the school district does not want to build a new stadium on the site of Davis Field.
Oh, that's part of it too. I think I've heard people talk
And
about that.
And I've heard a ton of people say it's the floodplain, and I've been corrected. No, it's not the floodplain. It's the water table. So I don't really know what the difference is, but regardless, there's a water issue on that field
Drainage,
that is not
yeah.
going to be fixed by putting turf over the top
Yeah.
of it. But they have property. The district has property that's right down the street off Monte Elma Road that they wanted to put the new stadium on it. They don't even have to go buy the property. They just have to put the stadium there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm oversimplifying it. It's a multi-million-dollar deal. But it's not like they have to scout places, buy land. You have it. It's right there by your district office.
And it's not just hurting the football team. That's what I see most of the time is football. But the Elma Eagles girls soccer team came out of nowhere and had an amazing season this year. And they're hosting a playoff game. Oh, wait, they're not going to be able to host a playoff game
they don't
because
have
there's
turf.
no way you can. No, not just
Oh,
because
really?
they don't have
Okay.
turf. There's no way you can play a soccer game on that field right
Gotcha.
now.
Okay.
You would go to dribble the ball and it would stick in the mud.
That sounds like good soccer to me.
So they'll probably end up playing at Monty.
So the field's a big issue. Also, there was that big win that propelled the Bulldogs into the playoffs in a really interesting game that I think was more competitive than the score would show. But also, there was better highlights from the game even than the football that was played. Because, Daniel, the drill team stole the show.
Okay, you can turn the music back on while we talk about this.
Okay.
Yes.
So I got to go specific shout-outs for the senior drill team girls. I know one of them was in Disneyland, so there was only 3 there, but I'm going to say all 4 of their names anyway. Samara Schultz, Fabiola Benitez, Kaylee Johnson, and Cassie Mudgett were the seniors, and watching them do their last fall drill routine. And you know how, Daniel, you and I talk all the time about how when we watch kids walk off the field or the court and they're emotional and it's hard. I had the same experience watching these girls just cry as they walked off after their last drill presentation, and they freaking nailed it.
It was awesome.
It was the best drill team performance that I've seen all year for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember a better one, and nothing's coming to mind. They did a Spice Girls song, which also is nostalgic for me because that came out when I was a kid. But the field was a muddy disaster.
Just a mess.
And the girls went out there and we all experienced this the same way. First of all, their moves were spot on. They were in sync. Everything was great. In sync, there's another throwback.
Yep.
They did a phenomenal job with the routine, but we're all watching, and they've got skirts on, and there's mud on the ground.
Yeah, perfectly white shoes to start,
exactly.
too.
And so we're watching I hope this routine doesn't have them on the ground at any point. Then all of a sudden, they do the splits into the mud, and the whole crowd goes, oh! In unison, everybody in the stands is like, no! And then we realize these girls are unfazed by this. They're doing their turns and rolls, and they get up and they're covered in mud. I've never heard such great cheers for a drill routine, even as it was going on. People were cheering them, and it was just a really, really fun experience. So,
Sounds to me like they don't need to move the field. They just need to build a stadium.
The game was awesome.
That would help.
The game was awesome, but congratulations.
Sounds like the mud is an additional thing.
The Elma High School drill team for a phenomenal performance, and great job by those seniors going out there and doing it for the last time.
Absolutely. Moving on, Shelton traveled to Aberdeen and fell to the Bobcats 14-16. Bobcats 1,000-yard rusher Jeremy Sawyer scored 2 touchdowns, one from 26 and the other from 3 yards out. and led the team with 110 yards on the ground. Trey Anderson and Jacob Bowers added 55 and 51 rushing yards respectively. The win sets up a three-way Kansas tiebreaker game, my favorite, between Aberdeen, Shelton, and Rochester for the final 2 spots in the Evergreen 2A League. This will take place Monday night at 6 at Centralia. Not sure why it's at Centralia. That's not really central
Is it a neutral
location.
field?
It's neutral, but it's
Okay.
not central.
Yeah.
They've done this a couple times where it's neutral, and you're like, yeah, but come on, figure it out better. And that will be exciting. So the way this works is Aberdeen will play Shelton, then Shelton will play Rochester, then Rochester will play Aberdeen. Whoever comes out on top in those, whoever goes 2-0, they will be the 1 seed out of that mess, then 1-1, then 0-2. That's kind of how they do it. A Kansas tiebreaker is basically each of those teams will play a college football style playoff against each other, and that's how they decide those games. It's a lot of fun. It's so crazy, and I can't wait to cover that. Hopefully I will be there tomorrow night, Monday night, when that takes place. If Aberdeen is the 1 seed out of that, they will travel to take on Hawkinson. That's what they're hoping for, because if not, if they are the 2 seed out of that, they will take on Richfield, who is amazing this year, and that would be a real tough road game.
And rounding out scores, football scores from the Twin County. Good job, Daniel. Even with an injured butt, you're still managing to do this. Rounding out scores from football for the Twin Counties. Hoquiam lost to Eatonville 40-12.
Closer than I thought it would be.
Yeah. Also, North Beach lost to PL Willapa Valley 50-6, and Raymond South Bend took out Ilwaco 54-8.
Sheesh. All right, in girls soccer, Montesano completed an undefeated league season on Thursday with an 8-0, thrown in the nil there, win over Hoquiam. Michaela Stanfield did Michaela Stanfield things. She scored 4 goals in the contest.
On the pitch.
Jaden
Since we're saying
Morrison.
soccer-y
Yeah,
things.
there we go. Jaden Morrison did Jaden Morrison things. She added 2 goals. Stanfield has now scored 3 or more goals 6 times this season.
Good God.
Wow. Bringing her season total to 28 goals.
Is that a hat rack?
She's got a hat rack full of hat tricks. The Bulldogs will host a playoff game on Thursday. Hoquiam season is over. They finished 4th in league. Elma girls soccer closed its regular season with a non-league loss to La Center. The Eagles are the 2 seed coming out of the Evergreen League and will host a district playoff game on Tuesday. Well, they will host it somewhere.
Moving on to volleyball, Montesano secured a league title with a dramatic comeback win over Hoquiam on
Crazy.
Thursday. The
Crazy.
Bulldogs came back from a 12-point deficit and faced 2 match points in the 4th set en route to a 3-2 victory over the Grizzlies. Monty was led by Landry Dorman's 24 digs, Ashlyn Devereaux's 11 kills, and 7 solo blocks from McKinley Dalen. Hoquiam was led by Ella Folkers' 35 assists, Gracie Bonnie Spradlin's 36 digs, and Christina Goulet's 13 kills and 6 solo blocks.
Whew. Yeah, we need more music. We gotta start that back over again. Also, we don't have it listed here, but I saw that Raymond completed an undefeated volleyball season. They've also won their first 2 matchups at districts, solidifying their state run. They are led by
A Freeman.
and a Gardner. I mean,
It's always a Freeman and a Gardner, right?
Exactly. So we'll get into some cross country now. Ocasta's Dylan Todd and Matthew and William Idzo. We've talked about them before. They qualified for the state tournament with top 10 finishes in the 1B, 2B District 4 championships at Rainier Elementary School on Saturday. Todd led Ocosta with a fourth place finish, and Matthew and William finished 5th and 8th, respectively. Montesano's Eric Jacklin and Aberdeen's Julian Campos led their respective teams at the 1A, 2A District 4 Cross Country Championships on Thursday at Lewis River Golf Course in Woodland. Jacklin ran a time that got him 2nd overall, and Campos placed 5th overall. Also, Hoquiam's Timmy Higgins, shout out to Timmy, placed 10th with a time of 18:11. Elma's Caden Betchart also finished in the top 25 to place 24th out of the 60 competitors. Justin, there's another one I threw in here. I don't know
I see that.
the age of this person, but I thought it was impressive.
Yeah, so a local bowler, Brian Morley, who hails from South Bend, recorded a rare 800 series during a Friday Fun League at Rainier Lanes in Aberdeen. He bowled a 257, a perfect 300, and a 279 over 3 games for a total series of 836. He crushed the 800 series.
Yes.
Good Lord.
Oh
According to Rainier Lane's owner and operator, Rob Shaver, Morley's series is in the top 2 or 3 scores the establishment has ever seen over the past 20 years of league competition.
Just ridiculous.
I can do that.
Yeah, okay. What is your best game?
You were there.
I was, but I can't remember what it was. I had my best game too. Brendan did not.
I think my best game is 111. I'm pretty sure that was my best game as a teenager when I bowled.
That's a bad best game.
That's
That's real bad.
That's icky.
You're bad at bowling.
I have not bowled in a very long time.
I think that day I was in like the ballpark of 230 or 235, something in that range. 233 is coming into my head, and I'm not positive that's what it was, but
Did I crack 200 or was I like in the 180, 190 range?
I want to say you had a 191.
Okay.
I feel like I should remember this more vividly because it is my best bowling score.
Mine too. And we were in Yakima.
Yeah, we were with Brendan. I miss Brendan.
I miss Brendan.
Brendan, if
too.
you're listening, we miss you.
We miss you, Brendan.
Come hang out. Let's go bowling.
Yes. All right. Let's see. A couple other local things to get to. Joel DeBlanco continues to be a monster for Cincinnati as number 2 Cincinnati is still undefeated after beating Tulane.
Yes. Yeah.
And he led his team in tackles yet again.
Yes, he did. He also forced a fumble, and he had a half a sack in that game. So 3 weeks in a row, Joel DeBlanco, and I'm sure everyone knows by now, but I'll say it anyway. He's a former Aberdeen Bobcat, so that's why we care.
Yep.
And now he's playing for the second-ranked team in the entire nation, in all of college football, and he's leading the team in tackles on the season, and he's had 3 weeks in a row where he is the leading tackler on the team, all in wins. They're undefeated, getting ready for the home stretch to see if they can win out and maybe make a shot at that the NCAA college football playoff. And I think going into this season, so Joel is using his extra COVID year, his super senior year, and going into it, although I haven't heard him say this, I was thinking he might have thought, hey, I'll play. He's already graduated, but it's like, hey, I'll play one more year and then maybe make a shot at the league. Because he was kind of on the fringe of whether he'd be an NFL player or not. I would imagine he's probably turning some heads at this point.
Absolutely. I mean, number 2 team in the nation. There's some eyeballs on what you're doing
and
every week.
Regarded as a great defense, great defensive unit.
And he's leading them in tackles every week. So yeah, he's definitely.
And he looks like a monster on the field.
That also helps. He just looks like he's so big.
Yeah.
And yet he still moves really well. You also put down here an Adam Big Hill update. So what Adam do?
So we haven't talked about Adam in quite a while. I think because we've just sort of grown accustomed to the fact that he's just great.
Yeah.
Like he's a great CFL player.
Yeah.
Adam is a former Montesano Bulldog, played his college football at Central Washington University, and went on to have an illustrious CFL career. He did have a cup of coffee in the NFL, played with the Saints a little bit, was active for a couple games and got in on special teams. But Adam, something caught my eye about him the other day. I just noticed that an article popped up that said he is one of only, I couldn't find the full rankings of like CFL records, but he's one of only 10 players in CFL history to have 700 or more tackles in his career. So he is top 10 all time in the CFL in tackles.
Wow.
And
that is amazing.
It's so amazing. He's also he plays for the best team in the CFL, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. They're 10-1 right now, and I think 3 games or so better than the next best team. They're playing extremely well. He is their leading tackler. He's been around forever, playing the game for a really long time, and I'm sure he's on the tail end of his career. I don't know how many more years he's going to play.
Hey, he's just a young buck. What are you talking about?
He's been playing for a really long time.
He is still young.
Your age? Is he your age?
Yes. Yeah. We graduated the same year.
Yeah.
So you've already retired from football, so.
That's a good point.
So Adam's probably like, what, 33?
He's either 32 or 33.
Yeah,
probably.
so he's getting to that point where he's going to start thinking about the end of his career. And he is still playing extremely well, leading the best team in the CFL in tackles, chasing another Grey Cup title. He's already been on 2 Grey Cup championship teams, and I just think it's worth every once in a while mentioning, hey, this guy who's a local guy is still doing great things, and he's transcending the great things from being a great CFL player to being an all-time great CFL player. Yeah. I tweeted about this earlier this week, and it was funny because it got immediately like tons of action, like lots of likes, lots of retweets. But I made a mistake in the tweet. And I put that in his career he had 700 sacks instead of 700 tackles. So by the time I realized my mistake, there was way too much action on it to delete the tweet. So I just replied to myself, oh crap, that should have said tackles, not sacks. So I got tons of comments, and a bunch of them were saying, I think you meant tackles and not sacks. Wait a minute, 700 sacks? That's amazing. One guy said something
he's only in the top 10 with 700 sacks? Oh my gosh.
One of the responses said something like, 700 tackles is incredibly impressive. 700 sacks would be worthy of being worshipped at an altar. So I had, while simultaneously getting like the most action I've ever gotten on a tweet, I also had a big fail in there as well. It was very embarrassing.
I mean, that's going to happen every now and then.
That's probably actually the secret to getting more action on your tweet.
That's a good point. Maybe that's why Justin's such a big deal on Twitter.
Yeah, he makes a lot of mistakes.
I'm a pretty big deal. I'm just saying, I'm a pretty big deal.
When he makes a mistake, people notice.
Do we have poll results?
Oh, yeah. You want poll results?
Yes.
I posted a lot of polls last week. All right.
Sweet.
Here we go. There's a couple that are not nonsense, all right? This was after last week's football. Which is the best team in the AFC? And then I put reply if your choice is not listed. It only lets you put 4. I put Titans, Bills, Bengals, Ravens, because those were the 3 top teams on the rankings in the AFC. 44% of the audience said the Bills. 36% said the Titans. The Titans right now, which I believe are in overtime with the Colts. So who knows what happened in the end of that game. The next one, which is the best team in the NFC? Now, I would like to point out that this was before the Cardinals lost to the Packers, who didn't have their 2 best receivers on Thursday. But 47...
And did their best to give the game away.
Yeah, really. Rodgers choked, and he just got
so
handed
good.
the win. The Cardinals got 47% of the vote. The Buccaneers got 37% of the vote. Okay, now, I mentioned this poll last week as one that I made a mistake in and had to take down, but then I put it back up, okay? Can you imagine a world in which you have terrible ball skills like Jamal Adams?
Vividly.
Because Daniel cannot imagine that.
Can't do it.
Well,
I sure can.
67% of the audience also cannot imagine a world in which they have ball skills as bad as Jamal Adams.
They are lying.
Next question. Will the University of Cincinnati win out and make the college football playoff? 70% of our audience said yes, they will.
Let's go.
So here, this was me going back and listening to my hockey analysis from Kraken last week.
Uh-oh.
So here's the question. They mishandled the puck a lot. Good hockey analysis. Because that was...
I voted yes.
That was the most hockey analysis-y thing that I did in that segment. 55% of the audience said no. That is not good hockey analyses.
Analyses?
Here's the next one. Do you sometimes bail on saying the name Leonardo and just shorten it to Leo? Because when we were doing Stump Daniel was trying to say Leonardo DiCaprio, and he was Leo, and he just bailed on saying the whole thing, and he said Leo. It was really funny. Well, 70% of the audience also has done that, Daniel, so don't feel bad about that.
Good to know.
The next question, should a country rap music blend be called crap or hip hop?
Crap. Definitely crap.
59% of the audience disagrees with you. It should be called hip hop.
Oh, darn it.
Here's the next one. What do you remember Benedict Cumberbatch from the most? Because when we were doing this fake celebrity name thing, and we were like, oh, I remember him from Sherlock. Oh, I remember him from Doctor Strange. No, he's Smaug from The Hobbit. Well, I put all 3 of those options. 43% remember him from Doctor Strange. 38% remember him from Sherlock, and only 19% know him as Smaug from The Hobbit.
Okay. That checks out.
How about, can 14 out of 20 ever be 60%? Because last week, Daniel got 14 out of 20 on Stump Daniel, and I said, 60%, and then quickly corrected myself. Well, I'm a little concerned because 19% of people said yes, it can. 81% knew that it's no. Also, the comments that I got on this were funny because I posted that question, then our friend Sean said, it's 70%. And then I responded with, that may technically be true, but is it always true? And he responded with, that's the way math works. So good on you, Sean, keeping me in line. Okay, one more question.
All right.
This is one I posted late in the week based on something I was experiencing in my own life. Do you hate glitter?
Yes.
85,
Craft herpes.
85% of the audience also hates glitter, and that is the last poll we had.
That's good stuff.
Thank you.
Tennessee looks like they're getting ready to kick a field goal to win the game in overtime.
Okay, good.
And apparently the Seahawks have already taken a 7-0 lead.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe they can actually beat the worst team in the league. We shall see.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that earlier, but I kind of never really came up. But the worst thing about this game today is that it's kind of a no-win situation for them, for the Seahawks. It doesn't matter how well they win. They should win.
I disagree with that.
Anytime
you win a game with your backup quarterback, that is a big win. Big win. Big win. Lots of win there. Please win.
Against Jacksonville, they have to win.
Well, also,
that's all I'm saying.
Jacksonville beat a team with their starting quarterback a couple weeks ago.
In London.
What does that have to do with anything?
It doesn't really count if it's in a different country.
Okay. That's not gonna do it for our show. Do we have more?
Well, we got to take a commercial break. So
yes.
let's we're gonna do mailbag in a second.
Mailbag.
But let's before we do that, let's take a quick commercial break.
At Ole Pen Real Estate, we have solidified our foundation on 4 core values. First, we continuously focus on growing our knowledge in the market and in our practices to bring the highest level of competency to our clients. Second, we provide a high level of integrity, compassion, and kindness in every aspect of our business. Third, we put the human element above business through humor, enthusiasm, and patience. And last but not least, we proactively respond to the needs of our clients. Our mission is to create a personal real estate experience, one person and one home at a time. With Ole Pen, it's personal.
Thank you for listening to The Scrimmage. I'm Justin Domashevitz. My co-host Daniel Hargrove is eating a Starburst, which you heard the wrapper in your microphone probably during the commercial break. We also have our trusty producer, Andrew Gross, here with us. We're getting close to wrapping up the show, but we do have one more segment, and it's Mailbag. And before we do that, I want to just give you your weekly reminder that Mariano Rivera is the most overrated player in the history of all sports.
Yep.
Mariano Rivera sucks. Okay. We got one mailbag comment that I think it's a little mean. It's a little mean-spirited. Daniel, do you want to hear it? It's not directed at either of us.
Who's it directed at?
Oh, no.
I'll just read it.
Okay.
And hope that Ian's not listening.
Uh-oh.
So this comes from Francis. He says...
Francis texts me sometimes during games.
If you use elusivity instead of elusiveness in your live broadcast, should you be prevented from holding public office? And if already in that office, should you resign? I've never made a mistake like that personally, but I'm asking for a friend. Schmeen Schmope for Schmitty Schmounchel. So, Daniel, I think you might need to explain what happened here. This is obviously something from your Friday broadcast, which I didn't listen to because I was at the game.
Oh my gosh. I'm also noticing that I didn't actually send a text back to him the last time he texted me during a broadcast.
How rude.
I'm just going to send it. Francis, if you're watching, this is why I'm sending this now. I'm just going to hit send on what I have. That was during the Rochester game. Yeah, I typed it and didn't send it. So, so Ian said elusivity instead of elusiveness.
Was it funny?
I thought it was funny, but when you're on a broadcast, you just your mouth starts to say a word, and sometimes you don't know how to get out of it.
Sometimes you just have to shorten it to Leo.
Exactly. And you know what, Francis? I would say walk a mile in our shoes. Because sometimes stuff comes out of my mouth when I'm broadcasting the game. I'm like, what did I just say?
Like sporks fartins.
Yeah. Yes. Bringing that up. Yes, because I did say sporks fartins on air during a Hoquiam basketball game against the Forks Spartans.
Yes.
That reminds me.
I should have been able to let it go, but I couldn't.
No, you can't. I mean,
Justin is dedicated to pulling back the curtain and revealing what's really going on to the listening audience.
He definitely was not a good teammate.
Not in that instance.
No.
That was a really good one. And also, I was wondering, how is that not something anyone had ever said before? Because I'd never heard it before that.
Right?
We played Forks teams all the time.
Why have we
And
never
sporks
called them that?
Spartans is just so perfect.
It is. It's the best.
Yeah.
And now they're not even in our league anymore, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, what was the thing, Daniel, that sparked our like little mini conversation on our Facebook Messenger about local broadcasts?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, because Joel DeBlanco, they gave him a shout out.
That's right.
And they were like, "Oh, he's from Aberdeen, Washington. That's where Nirvana's from."
Yeah.
Boop-a-doop-a-doop.
And I find that personally annoying. I get why they do it.
Yeah.
Because that's like the most nationally notable thing besides biodiesel, which is not something anyone cares
Internationally notable.
that happens. Good Lord. That happened in Aberdeen, or that's where Kurt Cobain is from. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I get sick of hearing it because it's what's brought up every time.
Yeah, and when you mentioned it, I typed in. When did typing in the alternate cap, alternate not cap become like the sarcasm?
A few years ago.
That's really annoying to type like that.
Yeah.
I know Andrew said he's really good at it. I am not. And then every time I hit space after the word, it changes it to how it should be, and I have to go back and change it back. And it's
so
super
that's a
freaking
thing.
annoying.
See, yeah, that's the first thing I disable on any phone I get. Is
You don't use autocorrect?
I do not use autocorrect. And yes, I do send misspellings sometimes, but the number of times that I send misspelled words is less than a lot of other people send me the wrong word.
I need autocorrect.
I don't think I usually send the wrong.
You don't. But a lot of people do, and
that's
I
true.
just find it more. It drives me nuts. I hate having to go back and correct things.
Yeah. Anyway, so I typed back, "Oh, look, people throw and catch fish in Seattle."
Yeah.
And
Also,
the alternate
I
caps.
might do a lot of non-standard texting like alternate caps or my own special emojis, and I might get super irritated when those keep getting corrected.
Yeah.
I also do on-purpose misspellings a lot, actually, come to think of it. There's autocorrect's probably
Kind of a
extra.
weird dude.
Autocorrect is probably extra annoying for me. It's probably fair to say.
Sorry.
But anyway, so
Daniel's
that
butt hurts.
sparked this whole. I wonder what all the local places feel like. What are the things from each spot that they're like, oh God, why are you mentioning that every time they hear a national broadcast?
every single time.
And I thought anytime someone from Forks might have listened to one of our basketball broadcasts, they would be like, really, another vampire joke? Come on, guys, you can do better than this.
Yeah, every single
But that's
time.
the only thing I know about Forks.
And so we'd bring it up every time, vampires and werewolves, and
They have a great 4th of July celebration.
They do. They got some great demolition derby. That is a lot.
I once
of fun.
heard Daniel Hargrove do play-by-play for the demolition derby.
That was the worst thing I've ever done with a microphone in my entire life. That was the worst. So I texted Francis that random text, and he responded because he said that we were all over Rochester in their passing game, and that didn't age well because literally right after we were saying how Rochester couldn't pass against Aberdeen, they threw for like a 40-yard touchdown. and then I responded with, yeah, but was it as good as when I said that Aberdeen hasn't ran a fly sweep all day, and then the next play they did? Now I'm just reading text.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop.
Okay, before we go, it's Halloween and we haven't done anything Halloween-y yet, except for the ghost noises at the beginning.
I'm eating candy.
So before we go,
That's
last
very
thing
Halloween-y.
we're gonna do a quick candy draft. Okay.
Okay.
So we're each gonna pick 5 candies. We're gonna snake it. Andrew's gonna go first. Daniel, you're gonna go last because we already established you hate being the first pick.
I do.
Because when Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, then you have nothing left on your team.
That's true.
So
Tight
Are there
one.
rules for eligible candies?
all candy is on the table, but it has to be specific. Like, you can't just say a brand like Cheerios and you get all the Cheerios.
Andrew's gonna come up with something ridiculous. It's not even a
That's
candy.
fine,
It's gonna
because
be like steak.
What we're going to do is I'm going to make a graphic out of this, and then we're going to have people vote about which group of candy is best.
How many picks do we get?
5.
5 picks.
5 candies.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, so Andrew, what's your first candy
I'm
pick?
trying to remember what they're called, but the chocolate balls with the shiny wrappers it's not Ghirardelli's. It's
I know what you're talking about. Those truffle things?
yes, the truffle.
Oh yeah, those
I don't
are
remember what they're
good.
called.
Let's just put... We all know what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for now, I'm going to put shiny wrapper truffle balls.
Are they chocolate salty balls?
Lindor chocolate
Lindor.
truffles.
I knew it was an L.
That's my first overall pick is Lindor chocolate truffles.
That's a good call.
And if you need, do you need me to be more specific, or are we just gonna fill? Okay, good.
I think
I thought maybe we could just all 5 of them could be flavored.
I'm going to start with Reese's holiday shaped candies. Those are my absolute 100% favorite. Daniel, first candy in the candy draft.
I'm gonna go with the Chewy Spree.
Oh, I knew it. I could have predicted that. Okay, you get another one.
I'm going to say Airheads.
Airheads. Very good. That's a good choice. Okay, my second choice is going to be Reese's Fast Break Bar. Did we just have our first angry drafter here?
How dare you, sir?
Reese's Fast Break Bar. Okay, Andrew, you got 2 picks. He's going to pick like black licorice or something stupid.
Ooh.
Well, actually, he's going to say, well, actually, black licorice is the only licorice because red licorice is not technically licorice.
Fruity rope.
Was I right, though? Were you going to say that?
No, I wasn't gonna say that. I was busy panicking because I can't think of. You took my. You know what? Snake drafts suck. It stinks to be first overall in a snake draft, right, Daniel?
Well, as you pointed out with the Tyler Lockett situation, if you wanted Reese's Fast Break Bar so badly, you could have taken it first.
I almost did, and I probably should have because Lindor was going to fly under the radar.
Exactly was. Yeah, bad strategy.
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to say... You know what? I'm going to say Snickers.
Ooh, dang it. I like Snickers. That's a good
Oh,
one.
and I have to pick another one.
Original Snickers, right?
Yeah, original Snickers. Another one... I'm going to say the Ghirardelli dark chocolate squares.
Ooh,
You're the only person I've heard pronounce it with the J instead of the G.
Is Ghirardelli?
Ghirardelli.
It's Italian, right? Does Italian use a hard
Ghirardelli.
G?
Sorry,
I have no idea. I have no idea either.
Okay.
I was just
Interesting.
I wasn't
Yeah.
saying you were wrong or right.
Well,
I was
I'm-
just saying you're the only one.
I'm likely to be wrong about pronunciation. Let's be real.
You picked a good brand, but you picked the wrong one. The dark chocolate squares are not the good ones.
Yeah, they
Yes, they are.
No.
Yep.
No. Okay, I'm gonna go with my third pick, Reese's Peanut Butter Cups.
Bro,
You didn't you?
you're the worst.
Do you own stock in Reese's?
Seriously.
I don't know what you mean.
Reese's and Cheerios.
Those are my 3 favorite candies. Okay, Daniel, you got 2 picks. Right now, you got Chewy Spree and Airheads. You've gone chewy and fruity.
Yeah.
You're a chewy, fruity man.
I'm getting.
I've often thought that.
You're a chewy, fruity man with a sore butt.
You broke him.
I'm gonna add some variety.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with a chocolate Charleston Chew.
Ooh.
And let's see.
Are there different kinds of Charleston Chew?
There's different flavors.
There's
like
chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry
Yeah.
are the ones I know of.
Okay.
This is a good one. Do I get another pick after this?
Yeah, you have one more after this.
Okay, I'm gonna go Swedish Fish.
Oh, that's a killer. I really wanted Swedish Fish.
Really? I thought you were just gonna go Reese's all around.
I love Swedish Fish.
I'm glad that you're calling it Reese's, no, and not like Reese's Pieces or something weird like that. Like, get out of here.
Yeah, no, that's something that people who don't know what they're talking about do. I actually, you kind of put me in a spot here because I was going to take Swedish Fish. So now I'm a little bit annoyed.
That makes it all the more. That makes it so much more worth it than just picking the candy that I wanted.
That was going to be my variety. Was going to be Swedish Fish. So I'm going to go with, tough choice, but I'll go with Reese's Pieces. Reese's Pieces.
Reese's Pieces are really good. Those
Yeah,
those are my favorite of the small candy-covered chocolate type candies.
Yeah,
All right,
me
Andrew,
too.
you got to pick your last two.
My last two,
Yeah.
Butterfinger
Okay.
and another one. I'm going to say Kit Kats.
Okay. Oh, I just thought of another good chocolate bar that I love. Anytime I see them in variety pack, I always scope them out. This is a tough choice for me on my next one.
Okay, I got one more. Now, there's not a ton of variety in my selections right now.
There's not really any variety in your selections right now.
I'm going to go with, this is going to really change all of that. I'm going to go with what has become one of my favorite, but I knew none of you
The
were going to
Reese's
pick it.
Cheerios.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Reese's
Wait,
Big Cup
Are you serious?
with Reese's Pieces inside.
You can't. No, it has to be a different candy.
Why?
You have both of those candies already.
Yes, you already have both of those candies. Just because you put them together.
have the Reese's Big Cup.
Yes, you have the Reese's Cups.
That's
the
a new
Reese's
one.
peanut butter cups.
The Big Cup is
You
a
did not
separate
specify
candy.
a size.
I am the commissioner of the candy draft. Reese's Big
That
Cup
would be why he put himself in the middle.
with Reese's. I could have gone Reese's with pretzels inside. I didn't do that. Those are good though.
Reese's with pretzels
Yeah,
inside?
like the little pretzel bits inside.
What's
Yeah.
Reese's
They also
doing
have a
over there?
Reese's Outrageous one. That one's really good too. And then they have like a one that has
right.
nuts in it. Yeah.
So
You've got nuts in it.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
We've got answers.
Okay, so do I go with another fruit one or another chocolate bar?
Well, right now you're pretty fruity.
I
So you
went
got-
I went all
you got
in on chocolate. Like
Cheese-free Airheads and Swedish Fish. The only non-fruity thing you have is the chocolate Charleston Chew.
So one of my favorite candies of all times are strawberry puffs. And you really only see them in like gas stations now. They're like the little pink candy. They're like the gummy candy. They're pink on top with the little white on bottom, sugar all over it. It's so good.
Those make my teeth feel weird. You can't do that.
Or the peach rings. Those
Yeah.
are two like
Those are good.
those are two good road trip candies. But since it's Halloween, I'm gonna go with this one because anytime that I see like of the variety chocolate bar fun size things, I will like scour the bag for the crackle bars.
Okay.
I love the crackle.
Those are like
chocolate
rice,
bars.
the ones that have the crispy
They're like
rice
Rice
inside of
Krispies,
it.
yeah. It's good.
That's a solid choice.
I love those.
We don't have any bad, like we didn't pick any bad candies. I thought
I mean-
Andrew was gonna pick a bad one
You literally
why would I pick a bad candy?
because you hate ice cream and like a lot of things that taste good.
Yeah, I thought, and normally you just break the rules and then find an argument that says that you didn't actually break the rule.
I'm surprised you didn't
like
say-
steaks
Didn't
a
just-
condiment or
just-
something
I'm
like
surprised
that.
you didn't say I'm gonna take cheeseburger as one of my candies and then explain
was an
why
option?
a cheeseburger was a candy.
No. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Well, I think that's gonna do it.
It was-
for
I
our
always
show
take
today.
everything very seriously.
That stems from you arguing so hard that you actually proved that any food can be a condiment.
Yeah, that was neat.
That sucked. All right.
You know it's a good meal if the steak is a condiment. Just saying. Just putting that out there.
Fair point. That's a fair point.
Gosh dang it. I don't have a nickname for Justin. Why does this always happen?
because you don't think about it ahead. You're busy like dancing to the commercials while we.
This is really it is. I said a lot of dumb stuff today.
I know, but I can
feel
never
like we
remember
should
it.
be able to-
Justin, I said a lot of dumb stuff today, Damish Evans.
Okay, well, I think that's going to do it for our show today. I would like to point out everyone can find us on our YouTube channel. We do go live on there now. You can follow us on Facebook at The Scrimmage, on Twitter at The Scrimmage, and on Instagram we are The Scrimmage GH, I believe.
Is that what it is?
I think so. But look it
Smash
up. If you
that
look up
like
The Scrimmage on Instagram, you'll find us. And I'm working really hard on trying to post updates about guys like Joel DeBlanco and Adam Big Hill so that people will know what's going on with some of our local kids who have gone any further. And I would also like to really encourage people, you can reach out to us through our socials if you want to tell us anything, like you know a kid who is doing something cool that's from the harbor or whatever. Like we want to hear about all this stuff. So let us know. Find us on our socials.
Absolutely. Maybe we should say all that at the beginning of a show. Do people make it this far?
No, Daniel, they don't. We should say that.
Send us a message
They
if
might-
you are still listening to the podcast.
They might make it this far if
just
they
say-
just start listening like to the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Just be like, I'm still listening.
Yeah. I don't know, because if you listen for, it's an hour and a half or whatever, if you listen for an hour, wouldn't you be like, I'm going to stick this out till the end?
It's
You would hope so.
yeah, hopefully.
Geno Smith just passed to DK Metcalf for a touchdown, 16 yards. Woo! DK Metcalf is on
Could
my
just
fantasy
say
team.
you just good, nice, congratulations.
All right, so for my co-host Justin, I've said some real dumb stuff today. Damish Evans.
And my co-host, Daniel Butthurt Hargrove. And our trusty producer, Andrew. Defensive ends are dumb. Gross.
Not all of them, but
been
they
listening-
can be.
You've been listening to The Scrimmage.